world in America, and you've been working, as I read, since 1992. And without giving a lot of your background, they're going to know who you are by the end of this interview, but many of them already do. But Robin, let me start this. I've read your book, Forgiveness. Mm-hmm. Forgiveness, that you wrote that about 30 years ago, A Bold Choice for a Peaceful Heart. Well, can you tell us basically what is the main point of that book?
The main point of that book is to, as I often say, bring forgiveness out of the realm of a lofty ideal. You know, we've all heard growing up, oh, you should forgive someone. But how do you do that? It's to bring it out of the realm of a lofty ideal into a practical, grounded strategy that people can integrate into their own life. And the reason it's so important is that I often think of it, when we hold on to resentment, it's like we have a handcuff around our wrist and we're handcuffed to the person toward whom we feel that resentment. It's the last person in the world we want to be handcuffed to. And yet, by virtue of our own resentment towards that person, we're handcuffed. And so the question for me was, you know, how do we unhandcuff ourselves? In a sense, we're our own jailer. It doesn't take somebody else. We jail ourselves by holding on to those resentments. In fact, if you look at the derivation of the word resentment, it comes from to feel again. And when we resent, we feel again and again and again and again the pain of the past. It keeps us stuck in the past. And through the power of forgiveness, we can release that. It doesn't mean we don't condone the person's behavior. It doesn't mean we don't call them on it, but we can release that chain that is around our wrist, that handcuff, from the other side of that handcuff that's around the person whom we're holding that resentment toward. And so I felt like if I could support people in doing that, it would be an enormous really gift to people to put it into a language. It's not like, I don't think there's anything new under the sun, but at the same time, can we describe it in a way that actually makes it a workable option for people? And they say, yeah, I see where I've been holding on. I see how it's kept me stuck. And I see that I can actually choose forgiveness so that I can free myself from this bondage of emotional kind of torture that I've been holding myself in, and move on with my life.
That's good. Robin, the Houses of Healing program curriculum that you've got out there throughout the whole country, mm-hmm. evolved from your book on forgiveness. I believe that's kind of the core of it. And when I read Houses of Healings through, a lot of what is in there came right out of your forgiveness book. Mm-hmm. And the facilitator's manual that I've got here, when the course is taught, it's taught by inmates throughout the country. It's a DVD series that goes with it, and we talk a lot about that in the first interview we did. But there are many powerful testimonies that are in the facilitator's manual from returning citizens that have gone through your program. And everywhere I go throughout the country, I meet. It's a thrill for me when I go into prisons and I take a library of books and I always give out Houses of Healing. And there's always several people wherever I've been that they just fall in love with me because they go, oh, that book is a life-changing book. It changed my life. Why do they say that? You know it's true. You've got testimonials, and I'm going to find a few while you speak to that.
I think that we all really have the potential to wake up to who we are. And when I say wake up to who we are, I mean wake up to the strength and the power and the wisdom and the internal freedom and just the power to direct our lives and make choices for ourselves that are healthy and life-affirming. But we can't choose what we don't yet know exists. If we don't know how to really make good choices because we haven't been taught how to do that, or we haven't been taught an alternative way, or we haven't been inspired to choose a different way of seeing and acting, we can't choose what we don't yet know exists. And so what the book does really is it does a number of things, I think. One is it communicates my absolutely and fundamental belief that within the core of every human being and every person that reads it, there is a decent, wise, loving, strong, powerful human being. And sometimes people's histories have taught them otherwise. And so Houses of Healing helps to, it's like a compass. It starts pointing people in a direction that affirms that goodness, that power, that possibility within themselves. And there's something about that because it's true that we have that, it resonates with people, and they start seeing that, there's another way to look at the world. There are different kind of choices I can make. And they start aligning with that dignity within themselves. And it gives them the tools to do that. It's not just, oh, you're terrific, but how do you begin to not only entertain that possibility, but how do you, the phrase I sometimes use, I don't know that I use it in Houses of Healing, but how do you align with that part of yourself? How do you energetically align? Not just think it, but really in your gut, begin to experience the peace and the power and the possibility inherent in you as a human being. And Houses of Healing helps to inspire and give people the skills and offer some guidance, and and it's written for people primarily behind the walls. But as I say in the introduction to the book, we're all prisoners if we're lost in our anger, our resentment, our low self-esteem. You can be, whether you're locked up or you're not locked up in terms of actual bars, you're locked up if that's where you get lost in terms of your own personal development. So the book is saying there's a key here. You are your own jailer. You can unlock that door. And here are some strategies and some ways of looking and understanding yourself and others that will really help you to step outside onto the other side of that wall or those gates, where you can move on and really live a life that has more positive meaning and possibility for you.
That's the goal, and my program seeks to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you talked about in my banner right here behind us, it says the 85%. And I'm telling people now that I meet everywhere, and I capture their attention, and I say, my program's very simple. It's 3 percentages: 85%, 95%, 70%. 85% of all the children whose parents are or have been incarcerated are probably going to go behind bars. That's just what it is. And we don't need to really go into too much detail why that is, but they're not getting the kind of parenting that they need to move on with their lives and be successful. And so they end up dropping out of school, gangs, drugs, whatever, and they end up going to prison because they do something that they get convicted for. Well, a lot of people that are in prison, I'd say the vast majority probably came out of that 85%. There's others that didn't come through it, but the 95% are those that are in prison, they get released. They serve their time, they get out. But when they get out, because they came from the 85% and they go back out, they don't know what the right behavior, the right way to do things is. So 70% of them can't make it. And a lot of them, it's not their fault. They just never knew the right way, and they don't know how to interact in society properly, and something goes wrong and they go back. And so that's the cycle. So you and I both know that the very best way to break the cycle is to get to the children before they go in, screw up in the first place. But we can't really do that. They don't show up on the radar until they've already messed up. So if we can go in and meet people that are behind bars and get them changing their thinking and going into their core self that you're doing, and send them out with a whole different way to view things and think about themselves and release that bondage that they have, and send them back to their families, or send them out to start a new family, or send them out to interact differently, then we can do something. Let me read this here. In your workbook, there's a page here that talks about the basic purpose of Houses of Healing program. The purpose of the Houses of Healing program remains the same. It is designed to increase participants' self-knowledge and their ability to relate effectively to others while strengthening their personal accountability. These broad tasks are approached in a variety of ways that include helping participants create meaningful narratives of their lives, working toward healing experiences. That's what you pretty much said. It's one thing to say I want to change and to try to change, but the number one thing that I hear in prisons from people that have gotten out, that recidivate and come back in, is they say, Steve, I did everything right. I did everything right like I knew I was supposed to, but nobody wanted to accept me or give me that chance. Well, maybe they didn't do everything right. So what are some of the exercises that you give people that will help them take it from just in their mind, I want to being able to actually develop new habits of behavior that will help them succeed when they get out?
I think it's, it's multidimensional. It's not like, well, here's the thing that you can do. And I always say also, there's 1,000 paths up the same mountain. You just need to be walking a path. If you're out and you're in the community, maybe go to a house of worship, maybe join a meditation group, maybe read books that will inspire you to live, to understand yourself better and live a good life. I don't know that there's any one way, but I think there has to be a way that you're really committed to. Otherwise, it's easy to get off course, especially with all the challenges that are out there that people face when they come out of prison. In Houses of Healing, it's really quite not complex, but multidimensional in terms of the number of things that we ask people to practice and look at. If you look at the table of contents of Houses of Healing, you see that part of it starts with doing time. How do you do your time? In fact, the Lionheart Foundation, which, as you know, I direct, just received a grant from the California Department of Correction called Making Time Count. And we're going right into the reception area, the first place people come into prison, and offering a course of how can you make your time count. And I was so excited about this possibility because I found when I was in prison teaching courses, people would say, this is the first course I ever came to, and I've been in prison for 6 years or 8 years or 5 years. And I thought, wow, what have you been doing for those 5, 6, 8 years before landing in this course? And this is a course that encourages people right from the beginning to look at how can I make my time count? How can I make it useful in terms of getting to know myself and learning the skills that are going to help me be successful in prison and when I get out of prison. Because, the phrase, it's a title of one of John Kabat-Zinn's books, is wherever you go, there you are. I mean, these are really skills that we teach are appropriate skills for anywhere, anyone, anywhere. I really am a great advocate for meditation. It's very integral to the class. And I don't say to people, you're in prison, you really need to meditate. I start every day off with a meditation because I realize that by meditating, it helps me. The phrase I often use is energetically align, come in alignment with that part of myself that isn't as highly reactive. I mean, I think we're all in some ways highly reactive, but it helps me be able to see things more clearly and respond more with greater thought, rather than just being impulsive in the way that I'm thinking. So Houses of Healing helps people to align with that, what I call the core self within them, that part